Good evening. Welcome to this evening's candidate forum for Hawthorn School District 73 school board candidates. My name is John Langland, and I am the president of the Hawthorn Education Association. We are the union that represents nearly 500 teachers and support staff here at Hawthorn. And we are hosting this evening's event, and we welcome you here. And we very much welcome our candidates here, giving them an opportunity to share their thoughts and ideas and what they wish to bring to our school board and our district. So I'm going to introduce Emily Cringer, a former student, resident, and current teacher of our district, who is going to help moderate this evening's event.
Hello and welcome. As Mr. Langland said, I am Emily Cringer. I am a 6th grade math teacher here at Hawthorn, and I was a student here myself. This is my 6th year at Hawthorn and my 8th year teaching, so welcome. We are going to, in a minute, have you tell us a little bit about yourselves. Just a reminder that everyone will have 2 minutes to answer each question. The first questions were put together by the Hawthorn Education Association, and then after that, there will be questions submitted by the audience. So we're going to start on this side here. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Working? Yes. First of all, I'd just like to thank the HEA for hosting this, and obviously all the people that did come out in this lovely March weather. My name is Lenny Nieves, and I'm a new candidate for the board. I come to you with 23 years of experience in the education field and public education. I taught for 11 years at Warren Township High School up in Gurnee as a high school U.S. history teacher, government, sociology, economics, AP U.S. history teacher as well. And then after my years there and involvement with the union, I currently have worked now for 13 years at the Illinois Federation of Teachers, which is a different organization that represents the HEA here. Started off in Rockford, represented many school districts from Rockford to DeKalb all the way out to Galena, and then in the last 6-7 years I actually work out of the Skokie office. I represent the Niles High School district there, many of their K-8 feeder districts that feed into that high school. So I have experience in working with overall probably 25 different school districts, school boards, superintendents, students, staff, teachers, the full gamut. I have 2 kids in the district. I have an 8th grader and then a 2nd grader. My wife has also been invested in the in the community. She's the English department chair at Vernon Hills High School. So as an investment again, you know, one of the reasons why I'm running for the board is because I've made an investment in this community. By moving into this community, choosing this community with, you know, what I have seen through my wife with the quality of students at the high school, I've seen what Hawthorn 73 does with its students and does for its students. And I wanted my children to come here, and I want to be a part of that. And I think my experiences with the union and in public education could be a very valuable asset to this district. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on.
Good evening, everybody. My name is George Fevet, and I am a current school board member for all of about 1.5 months. I was recently appointed, but a candidate for the first time here for the board. I'm an over 12-year resident of Vernon Hills. My wife and 2 sons live here. My sons attend Elementary North. And I'm really running because I feel like there's a place for an active parent to be a member of the board. I've seen what my involvement with organizations throughout the community has done. I'm the current code master of our PAC 273 and have found myself coaching soccer and participating with basketball, and throughout all of that I've seen what time given to families really does do for the community. I come to this position with a background in IT and business. I've been in IT for over 20 years, working my way up as a developer into management. I went off and got my MBA, so I can throw a little bit of finance and accounting and marketing to the mix too. Throughout it all, there's been a history of working with teams, building projects to completion, and delivering success. And I hope to do the same here. I find that data is my friend, and that when you have enough of it and the right kind of it, you can make appropriate decisions. And that's something I think I can definitely bring to this board. But really, if it wasn't for what it brings to the families, to the students, I don't think I would be sitting up here tonight. So that's all I got to say. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Next up.
Hello. Hi, Michael Murphy. I am a new candidate for the school board. I've lived in Vernon Hills since 2007. I have 2 boys, 7 and 4. The younger one's going to be going to kindergarten next year. I'm a senior IT consultant, more than 15 years experience. I have experience in finance as well. I run projects, do budgets and all that kind of stuff, so I think I can bring that experience to the board. My goals, I think, are to basically trim the budget, make it more efficient, make the district more efficient, and also I'd like to push and promote STEM labs and all that kind of stuff. I think that's where the new jobs are going to be in the future, and I think we need to prepare our students for that. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Robin Cleek. I'm a current board member and have been since 2015. I'm running again because there's still lots of good work to do, and we are on the right course, I believe. Pretty optimistic about our incoming superintendent and what we can do now that the community has passed the building referendum. So with that said, my main goals would be to continue looking for ways to improve student outcomes and encourage my fellow board members to set goals to improve teacher retention and close student achievement gaps that exist, as well as execute the EFMP that we passed with fidelity to its original goals. I would like to continue to be a voice for all stakeholders. I think I've done that up until now and would like a chance to continue doing that. A little background about myself in case you're not familiar. I'm an 8th grader, 6th grader, and 3rd grader in the district. I've lived here since 2004 after moving back. I actually grew up in Vernon Hills until I was 11 and went to Hawthorn schools myself until 6th grade and was so excited to find this community so diverse and flourishing when I got back here. So happy to be a part of Hawthorn and hope I get another chance to serve the community. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yes. Hello. Thanks, babe. So my name is Sonali Patil, and I am an incumbent. I have been on the board for the past 4 years, along with Robin, since 2015. I strongly believe in a value of good education and preparing all children with all the tools and skills necessary to be successful and realize their potential. So I've been vested in not only my kids' education, but the education of all the children in our community, for which I've been a part of for the past 20 years, actually. Doesn't feel that long, but time flies. The past 4 years seem to have flown by too as a board member. The reason I'm running for re-election is, in the past 4 years our district has experienced a lot of significant changes. We've had changes in administrative ranks. We passed a referendum which had failed once, and we were successful enough with the community's support and input to pass it this time. So one of the reasons I want to run is to provide the history, the knowledge, the institutional memory that I have to the new superintendent and the administrative team to make them successful. I bring that. I would be able to support them through that transition, as well as to help fulfill the community's vision in implementing the facilities master plan that we did. And just be fiscally responsible as we have been going forward to meet needs of all the students. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I want to thank the HEA for sponsoring this forum. Really appreciate it. Very useful. I'm joined here tonight by my wife of 45 years. I'm Joel Finfer. I have 3 grandchildren, 1 granddaughter who has been through the district, and I've got 2 grandchildren in the system right now. And I'm new-ish. I was on the Stevenson High School board from 1990 to 2002. When I first put up my campaign page, the very first message I got was the former assistant superintendent for business, who said, "Haven't you had enough?" And that answer might have been yes, until I had the opportunity to work with family and friends of Hawthorn District 73 for the referendum. It reminded me of my wife and I and all of our friends when we first moved into the Stevenson district. And when you have a motivated, committed, and caring community, there's absolutely no limit to what you can accomplish and how much your students can achieve. And I hope I have the opportunity, and I just appreciate being able to hang around with those guys.
Thank you very much. For the next question, we are going to start with you again, Mr. Finfer, and then work our way back this way. So question 2 is, what is your goal for District 73?
I would like to improve student performance with minimal impact to the taxpayer. Some of the strategies that are in place at Stevenson helped accomplish that.
Great, thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Patel.
My goal for District 73 would be to continually ensure the high level of education and engagement for all our students in a fiscally responsible manner. We should work to inspire all our students to achieve their potential by maintaining or increasing services, as well as fostering a work environment that allows for innovation and collaboration. My short-term goal is to provide the support and insight needed for our new superintendent to make this transition and be successful. So he can come in, know how our district works, functions, know the strengths and weaknesses of our district, and move it forward in his vision. So, thank you.
Thank you.
So what are my goals? Is that the question?
Yeah, what is your goal for District 73?
I already outlined a few of them when I gave my little introductory speech. And like Sonali, some of those would be short-term goals because they're things that have a finite period on them. But overall, my goal would be to continually increase student outcomes and achievement in the most equitable manner possible. And I think that we are a great district, and I also think there's room for improvement. So a lot of that, of course, is going to come from the top down with us setting goals and then the superintendent being able to implement those. And I look forward to being able to use my institutional memory to help Dr. Hannigan with his transition to Hawthorn, and that we can all move forward now that we've got some big projects under our belt. So, like I said, specifically looking to improve student achievement gaps, close those gaps a little bit, while still maintaining high levels of achievement and progress for our top performers, improve the teacher-administrator relationship, and I would also like to continually execute the EFMP, which I know is a finite period of time here, but we need to continually reevaluate whether the next phase is necessary. So looking at our original goals, but then continually reevaluating whether the next phase is necessary before we move forward. Thanks.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, as I said at earlier, I'd like my main goal is to trim the budget, make the district more efficient. I think there's ways we can do cost-cutting measures without affecting the students. I've looked at the budget, I've examined it, I've specifically examined the IT budget. I can definitely see ways to cut costs without affecting anything at all. So that would be my first goal, and then as we close the budget deficit, we can work towards promoting STEM initiatives. That's basically where the jobs are going to be in 20, 30 years when my kids are grown up. So that would be 2 goals. Though you said 1, but
Great, thank you.
So my goal would be to make sure that the families and communities, or the families and students in our community know that someone's paying attention, someone's listening, to make sure that the staff and teachers here at Hawthorn know they're getting the right support, so that the things that we're building today are still around in 10 and 15 years, to make sure that we're providing a solid foundation for growth and that we're continuing to build on the success that we've had.
Great, thank you.
My goal is to maintain, if not improve upon, obviously the quality and the services, opportunities, programs that the district has, which will be challenging in light of, some of the challenges obviously the district is now facing in terms of the failure of the second referendum. If you've become familiar with my social media Facebook page, I haven't shied away from the fact that I have experiences with the teachers union, I have experiences with school districts that have referendums that have failed. And I've seen the decisions that they've made. Some are good, some are bad. And I think, again, my perspective in working with these districts and having experiences here, again, at least provides a voice among 6 other individuals on the board to give guidance to them, to give some input, to make hopefully decisions that will keep the services and to keep the quality of the school district that we have.
Great, thank you. So again, this time we're going to start with you, Mr. Nieves. The question is, define the role of a board member, administrator, teacher, and educational support staff.
I'll try and go backwards. The teachers and support staff, by far, the most important aspect of any school district. They're on the front lines every day, direct contact with students, not just as a teacher or support. They are there as mentors. They are there as sometimes pseudo-parents. They have such a definitive role in the lives of kids that they are the most important. They are the true professionals and of any school district. Administrators, roles are significant. Everyone's roles are significant, obviously, but as an administrator, it's to have a vision for the school and to work with the teachers and the support staff in making that vision come true. A collaborative process. Obviously, again, it shouldn't be a surprise for what I do that I'm big on the collaborative process. I think teachers and support staff, since any decision that comes across the school district is going to have an impact on them, they should be involved in the decision-making process. And I think administrators need to foster that and encourage that among their staff. That's how they lead. In terms of a school board member, again, the vision for the school. One among 7, the 7 of us each having this vision or idea of what the school should be, to work to collaborate together with administration staff to see what kind of vision it is for the school district that we want to accomplish. Collaborative process among all the groups, and then obviously as the school board, we have the means to provide those resources and decide what resources we can allocate to the teachers and staff and administrators to provide, and hopefully succeed in that vision.
Thank you.
So I guess it's probably most important from my perspective to first state that a board member is not a teacher or an administrator or the support staff. We might provide support for those individuals, but our role is to advocate for the students and for the community. The administration obviously sets the tone and the operation for the district, and making sure that they get the right support from the board to do those things with their professional knowledge would be something that a board member must do. Same with teachers in the classroom. I'm certainly not going to be the one to tell a teacher how to do their job. I'm going to make sure they have the resources they need to succeed in that classroom for the students' sake, and make sure that they have the right framework to provide that consistent knowledge as the student works through the school district. And then obviously the support staff plays a key role in taking care of those needs that one-on-one time a student may need, or specific ideas or necessities that a classroom teacher can't provide while caring for the rest of that classroom. So to me, it's certainly a matter of supporting everyone that I can as a board member and making sure that those who have other roles to do within the district get the flexibility and freedom to do their job properly and the support they need from me and the rest of the board to make that happen.
Thank you.
I'll start with the teachers. They are on the front lines, right? They're the ones doing the work, teaching the children. I think they have the most important job, obviously. I think we need to kind of not necessarily take them for granted, figure out what they need, give them all the support from the school board perspective. I've been hearing a lot of talk about teachers leaving. I'd like to find out why. I'd like to find out why that is and see if we can improve that. I think it starts with the administrative, the superintendent, and down the principals and the assistant principals. They're the leaders, right? So they need to set the tone. They need to set the culture. They need to figure out how to motivate their teachers. And as far as the school board is concerned, I think we need to give some guidance and some vision into what we think the best schools in the area are going to look like. So.
Thank you.
So the role of the board member is to set the mission, goals, and policy, as well as the vision for the district. We do hire the superintendent. That's the only employee we hire. And although we can set goals and attempt to be collaborative, each one of us is only one voice and one vote out of 7, and nothing is done without consensus, which is 4 out of 7. So our role individually is fairly limited. We each have our own great ideas, obviously, but I'm a lawyer. It doesn't make me the legal department. I'm not a substitute for them. We have somebody for that. Some people bring an IT background. They're not in the IT department. So it's really a broad perspective when you're a board member. It's, I think, our job to advocate first and foremost for the students, with them in mind, but we also need to obviously keep the entire community in mind and all the stakeholders, the teachers, the taxpayers, and administrators. So the administrators are responsible for the daily operations of the district. They provide the objectives, solutions, and procedures to carry out those goals, visions, and missions that we give them. And the teachers are obviously the ones in the trenches having a humongous impact on our students. And we thank them very much for the job that they do. It's a difficult one, and it's our job as board members to give them that support through resources. And the educational support staff really are so helpful to our teachers. I don't think any of them could do what they do without the educational support staff and the paraprofessionals. Thanks.
Great, thank you.
Providing a quality education requires a coordinated effort from the board, the administrators, the teachers, the ESPs, as well as the parents. The role of the board is, as Robin pointed out, is to set the vision, mission, goals, and policy. The board also connects with the community and is a voice for the vision of the community. The board hires the superintendents and holds them accountable for the performance of the district. The administrators are responsible for the working of the district. They make the administrative procedures to follow the policy that is laid out by the board. They provide the leadership and engage in planning for the vision that is also laid out by the board. They collaborate with the teachers and support the teachers so that the teachers are there to engage with the students. The teachers are the front line. They provide the curriculum, the education, the safe nurturing environment that the students need to grow and reach their potential. The ESPs are the ones who support the teachers in helping the students reach their potential, and the parents oversee all of it. So that is their roles.
Thank you.
In 1960, President Kennedy said we were going to put a man on the moon in 10 years. He did not design the Saturn V booster. He left that to people that knew how to do the job. The role of the board is to set policy and hire a superintendent. Administrators, teachers, and ESPs are tasked with implementing that policy.
Thank you very much. So for this question, we are going to start with you, Mr. Finfer. The question is, what do you think is the biggest issue in public education at this time?
How much time do you have?
2 minutes.
The single biggest issue is politicians trying to fix education. It seems as if because somebody thinks they went to school, they understand how to be an educator. I go to a doctor. I'm not performing surgery. On a recurring basis, educators are faced with a continuing series of acronyms on how schools are going to get better. And what we as a board need to do is to put the tools in place to allow a good, quality staff manage through the latest and greatest.
Great, thank you very much.
As Joel said, this could go on for a while, but we're going to try to narrow it down. So living in the state of Illinois, I think the biggest issue with public education is funding from the state, federal too, but funding overall. We are amongst the highest in property taxes in the country, just in Lake County, so we all pay the burden of educating our children just because the funding is not there from the state. And we have to take care of the shortfall. Even from the funding from the state and even to the property taxes we pay, our schools are only at 84% adequacy by the SB rating, so that's a shortfall of about 11 million a year right now. I mean, if we had to pay that in property taxes, just imagine what our bills would be. I think we would all just quit, or the kids are not getting educated. So I think funding becomes the biggest issue of how to get the revenues so that we can do what we want the most, is educate our kids so that they can compete not only with other kids in the neighborhood, but on a national and a global stage, because that's where they're going to compete against. They're not going to compete against just the kids from Buffalo Grove or Lincolnshire. They're competing globally now. So we have to make sure this, whatever this formula is, it gets done. Plus the issue another issue I have with public big education is, especially coming down from state legislators, they keep changing what they want to do. And they don't wait to see whether it has been effective, and they just change it. And one of the examples I can give is ISAT. We used to have ISAT, which was a state funding to market, then we went to PARC, which changed every year, and this year now we have Illinois Assessment of Readiness. So we have no baselines, nothing to compare ourselves to, and it is a constant changing, and then we have to spend the time in changing with what is mandated for us to change. So I think that is one of the biggest issues I find, at least two of the biggest issues.
Thank you.
Sonali stole my answer, but as you can see in the packet, I had it on my own also. I do believe that in Illinois, the biggest issue facing public education is the funding. We deal with a lot in Illinois. We have untimely payments from the state. We've got potential property tax freezes constantly going to the legislature. Clearly, we have a pension crisis that everybody has heard about. And all of this makes it difficult to plan and budget. The funding models, which change somewhat regularly, not as quickly as they change the ISAT, but every time the funding model changes, it becomes, again, unpredictable as to what we're going to receive. And some districts have more than what they need, and some districts like us don't have as much as we need. So when Sonali said we were at 84% adequacy, that didn't mean 84% proficiency for our students. It meant we're being funded at about 84% of what we actually need in order to operate. So obviously that affects all parts of the district, and it's something we as a board need to constantly be aware of and paying attention to changes in, and be cognizant of when we're making decisions that not only will impact us right now, but will impact boards that are 15, 20 years in the future.
Thank you.
They stole all my answers, so a little bit, I have a little different perspective on the funding aspect of it. We have the second highest property taxes in the nation, other than New Jersey. So I think with that, we should get the best education system in the in the country, right? They're at least the second best. So I think from the revenue perspective, we're not seeing a lot of revenue come in. There's pension crisis, and the state's not paying their bills and all this other stuff. So we need to look on the other side. We need to be more efficient. We need to, you know, we need to be more efficient in teaching as well. And that doesn't mean, you know, throwing a Chromebook on a kid's desk and then saying, okay, you're going to teach them with a Chromebook, you know. But, you know, we need to really look at the budget and see where we can trim things from the budget without having a negative effect on the students. I think that's the main issue and the main driver is why I'm running.
Thank you.
I'm pretty sure I put funding in the packet, but I'm not going to say that right now because it's already been said. I actually, as I was sitting here thinking, before Sonali spoke, I was going to jump on the change bandwagon, so thanks for stealing that thunder, Sonali. I think if we were living in a world where technology wasn't changing so quickly and people weren't moving so frequently and news wasn't flying at our faces at a rapid pace, we'd have a far lesser challenge than we have today with the way things are moving and the way things are changing. The predictability of our situation just isn't there, and I'm sorry, the school district doesn't move like a speedboat. So setting a course that works now and into the future is, I think, by far a great challenge for all of us. Funding doesn't help. I mean, with enough money, you can probably get past anything, right? And that's certainly not the situation. But if we weren't constantly trying to deal with all of this change, I don't think the funding would play such a role. It would still be important, but trying to navigate what's needed now versus what will be needed in 5 or 10 years, I think is probably by far the greatest challenge we have in trying to set the right course and make the right decisions. And understanding that whatever we decide now will probably change in a week doesn't help either. So I'm gonna say that right now, change in the way that we expect to do things and the way that we have done things in the past, not working anymore, becomes the greatest thing we have to deal with.
Thank you.
I don't disagree with anything that my colleagues have said. I agree completely, so I would throw out a different issue. A significant issue in public education now is the over-testing of students. I have significant reservations and problems with trying to fit kids into a box for test scores and then using those test scores to determine if this kid has learned anything or if this teacher has taught this kid anything. We've kind of lost sight of what education is for in terms of producing children who will be productive members of society. And we have this idea that everyone has to learn the same or at least test the same to get these results and move forward and blah, blah, blah. You know, kids learn differently. Kids learn in different styles, different times of day, different teachers. There's so many variables, their home life that leads into student learning that trying to confine them to test scores and then determine everything from funding to other issues with test scores, I think it does a disservice to public education. You know, with kids, again, the process of learning is such a, you know, individualized process, and it relies on so many resources. The classroom teacher, if there's a special ed teacher involved there, the support staff, the paraeducators, paraprofessionals, all these individuals that, you know, go into this. And, you know, if a kid said, if there's a benchmark, for example, for a child is testing at like 25%, and they set a goal for that child to 70%. And you know what, at the end of the year, that kid hits 65%, 60%, that kid hasn't failed. He's learned. And I think tests, you know, this over-reliance on tests tend to, you know, give a false picture of public education. My time's up, sorry. I'm a history teacher, I talk a lot.
Thank you very much. So right now we're going to take a 2-minute break to gather any questions from people in the audience that they would like asked. Then we'll ask a few more questions before wrapping up. Questions here within the time. We're going to do 1-minute responses for these. So for the first question, we will start here with you, Mr. Nieves, and then work our way down. So question 1 is, as you know, the district ran 2 referendums in the fall. The first, where new construction passed, What are your thoughts on what the next steps should be?
So the next steps for the construction? Or the next
It
steps?
doesn't
for-
specify, so I guess you could take it whichever route you would like.
Okay. I mean, I would take it as obviously one of the two passed. The second failure obviously is going to have significant ramifications for moving forward. Tough decisions are going to be made, or have to be made. Obviously, at this last board meeting, there were recommendations already made there. My concern, again, and my vision moving forward is to make sure that nothing here is going to impact student learning, student opportunities, student programs, teachers and staff. That yes, we need to take a hard look at obviously what the budget is and what the finances are. But personally, again, with my voice, I would strongly oppose any cuts to any services or programs for students.
Thank you.
So I don't view the determination of the second referendum as the answer to a question. It was just now it's something that needs to be taken in and dealt with. A thoughtful review of the way that the district handles finances is a proper next step to best understand what choices can be made towards changing the need. It didn't disappear, so you've got to understand if it can be dealt with now, long-term, short-term, or if other choices need to be made.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely, the second question didn't pass. That was for the $1.3 million that would have solved that budget deficit. So now that we have it, we have to be more efficient. We have to make trim the budget, but not to the point where it actually affects the students. I think we can be more efficient. I know we can. We just have to make some tough decisions. Look at a lot of the contracts that we have out here for different subcontractors. Do we need them? Are we overpaying on them? Do we have hardware and software that's intermixing? Are we paying consultants to do jobs that the staff could do, or maybe the other way around? We just have to think outside the box.
Thank you.
So the $1.3 million obviously is going to need to be covered one way or the other. I'm going to just call it the elephant in the room. I think the big question is whether or not we will have to go back to referendum for that. And I know that there have been a few candidates that have said absolutely not, a few candidates that have said absolutely yes. My answer is very much conditional upon what cuts are recommended from our superintendents and our administration. We started the conversation last Monday night. It's simply not the end of the, definitely not the end of the conversation. It's just the beginning. So I think whether we're looking at some different sources of revenue like grant writing, or whether we're looking at other cuts that need to be made, obviously we're trying for little to no impact to the students. We'll see how much we can close that gap. But I think the big question is another referendum unavoidable? Not 100% sure, but I think the new superintendent will give us a lot of direction for that.
Thank you.
So essentially, as my colleagues have already said, with the second question on the referendum not passing, it keeps us, it is a deficit that we have to look for. So we have to look for efficiencies. All of us agree that we want to keep these efficiencies and look for this $1.3 to $1.5 million or more, because we already were running a deficit, and this was with operational costs. So you're looking for a total of about $3 million. To cover the deficit that we were running before this, as well as for the new capital plan that we would be building. It has to come from efficiencies. Could we reach there? I don't know. Efficiency is part of it. Looking for new sources of revenue is another, either through some innovative grants, corporate partnerships, or something else that the administration and the superintendent brings. As we all agree, keep it as away from the students, but if we have to figure out how to balance this budget by building this new space too, we will have to take the community's input. The referendum, the first one which was done too, with this capital plans one, was done with the community's input and their support. So if we have to go out, we would have to go out and see if they would support it and see how far. One thing I can
I
definitely see
think
is
we're gonna have to stop and move on. Thank you very much. On to our last candidate here, go ahead.
The second question that asked was unfortunate. The good news is that those expenses aren't coming online tomorrow, so it gives the district time to figure it out. What I heard on Monday night was a good start, and candidly, I'm going to count on the professionals to let the district and hopefully me know what responses to make and what steps to take.
Thank you. So for this question, we are going to start with you, Mr. Finfer. The question is, do you feel there should be a set class size, and do you believe this has any bearing on student success? Yes, the question was, do you feel there should be a set class size, and do you believe this has any bearing on student success?
As a lay educator, I wouldn't be comfortable establishing a set class size. I don't think that's my place. Whether or not it has an impact on student success, there are studies that show that once you get beyond elementary school, the class size really doesn't matter. But we're talking about an elementary school, so I guess that kind of answers the question. It does have an impact on student performance.
Okay, thank you.
I wouldn't be comfortable setting a class size. I think the class size should be determined by the teacher. A great teacher can probably handle a lot more than somebody who's just straight out of school. But it also depends on the students that are there and their needs. If the students don't have any needs, maybe a bigger class size can be. And the big and small is kind of a relative term too. From the research that we did look into over some of our things, it was sometimes somewhere between 15 and 18 was a low class size that could be set. High, normally it's 25 is an average kind of, and then 28, 30 would be considered a high class size. So, no, but it does have a bearing in set, but I think it depends on the students in the class as well as the teacher who's conducting that class.
Thank you.
I would agree with Sonali to a large extent. However, I don't think we can possibly set an actual class size because a lot of it isn't determined by us. A lot of it is determined by what residential improvements get approved by the village and how many people move in through generational turnover. I think we can definitely, as a board, look at setting a goal to not go over a certain amount of class size. And right now, we've set it at 25. Once we build more space, I think ideally we would like to lower it, especially in lower grades. But I can't speak for the board, but just for myself, I think that would be an ongoing discussion because I do think that class size does impact the outcomes, even though research says it's not till class size hits like 32 that you start to see declining outcomes. I think anybody who's spent time in an elementary classroom knows that once you get into the upper 20s, every additional kid seems like it's more than just one additional kid. It's a lot, so that would be my opinion.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think we can really put a static number on class size. I mean, if we could do that, then we could literally just put, here are the class sizes, and we shouldn't increase or decrease. It all depends on the students. It all depends on the teacher teaching. My son has 23, 24 in his class. Teacher's amazing, and he's learning a lot. So I don't know what would happen if there was 26, or if there was 30. So I think we need to look at the data. I think we need to look at all kinds of data, lots of data, and we need to make a decision in that way. And it's a variable thing. It's just you can't put a number on that.
Thank you.
So no surprises here. One of the first things my first professor in an MBA program told me was the answer to any question is probably it depends. And I'm going to use that answer here. I think so much of it has to do with environment. The students in the room play a part of that, but also the facilities and the resources, it all adds up. You can certainly create an environment with 10 kids that doesn't work for learning just as much as you can create one with more that does. It's a factor, obviously. I'm not setting a class size number up here. But I will say that the environment matters most of all, and that's part of it.
Thank you.
There's a lot of variables, as others have said here, in terms of, what's going on in a classroom. Obviously, being an educator and coming out of the classroom, I strongly believe in the smaller the class size, the better, even at the high school level. Kids learn better in smaller classes. They can do more. They can differentiate instruction more, with smaller class sizes. As a board, obviously, we would walk that fine line to, we don't want to establish any numbers that are obviously going to cause complications, because what if, one or two other kids move into the district? Or, obviously along with that though, our responsibility would be with the administration to have a contingency plan for those situations that do. What are we going to do, to keep these class sizes low? But again, I think the research solidly supports it. And I think we as board members should do everything we can to keep class sizes as low as possible for our children.
Thank you. The next question, we'll start with you again, Mr. Nieves. The question is, we talk about closing the gap. How would you propose to close the gap? What would be your first steps?
Close the gap achievement-wise or financial-wise?
Achievement.
Achievement. I can tell you what I wouldn't do is I would not support the most recent recommendation of cutting, potentially 14 ESPs out of the classrooms. Again, I think with the achievement gap, with a lot of the problems that many schools see, not just this one, are the certain subgroups that are deemed obviously the neediest, whether it's English language learners, whether it's special ed students, whether it's socioeconomic, levels. The achievement gaps seem to be bigger there. Those are the children who need the supports the most. And I think by cutting, ESPs out of that, it's severely hampering a lot of what the teachers can do. It's going to have an impact on how they can differentiate instruction, what they can have certain groups of kids be doing in one place versus another. So that is definitely one thing I would not look to do.
Thank you.
I would focus my initial attention on trying to understand the reason, the root cause for the gap that exists. Very likely it does exist outside the classroom, and trying to find out ways to work with the parents, with the families, to better prepare their children for the challenges that they face. Certainly resources can play a role, but involvement plays a greater role in my mind in making sure that those who are committed to solving that problem get the resources they need to work through those challenges would be the first thing I'd do.
Thank you.
I think we need to take a look at the data, IT, so I'm immediately thinking about data, right? So what is the data telling us, right? What is the, we have to define the problem, and then from there we can come up with a solution. So I'm just a huge proponent of the STEM stuff, right? The science, technology, engineering, and math. I think that would be a big driver into closing that gap and prepare the students for the future, really, future employment.
Thank you.
So I hate to not answer a question, but it's actually not the school board member's role to decide how to solve that problem. I don't want to punt the issue, so I'll sort of half address it, but the role that we would have would be to set the goal for the administrators to figure out where that achievement gap is coming from, and then how we're going to fix it, and in what amount of time we're going to fix that in. And of course, we would monitor that, we would get updates. I also don't know that I'm a fan of cutting the ESPs, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to discuss that tonight, but I think that explanations can be given and research can be done, but it isn't our specific job to say, here's the plan and here's the steps and go do it. It's just our plan to set the goal to close those achievement gaps and figure out where they're coming from. What I won't accept is I will not accept the excuse of, well, if you're from a low socioeconomic status, then it's just a poorer outcome. I'm not going to accept excuses like that. That's not okay with me. Every student can learn.
Thank you.
Robin said, this is not the board's job. This is also, and I can speak for myself, I'm not qualified enough to give an answer to this, to what can be done to close that achievement gap. There are people here, the educators who are more qualified, more than enough qualified to answer that, and I'm sure they have. They have, in the 4 years that I have been a board member, I've seen them attend enough conferences and go and learn and further their education to answer just this question. We as a board can be very supportive of the solutions that they bring us. Some of the things that we have heard as words has been the curriculum, some of the resources that we can provide them, as well as to address some of the inherent biases that some people might have. These are just the words that we have heard, we have learned from a very high overview of 1 hour session that I take. So I really cannot compete with the actual solutions the educators can bring me, but I will do my best to support what they bring.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to be redundant. A school board has absolutely no place making decisions on how to close a gap. That is not their place. I agree completely with Robin and Sonali. It's the job of the professional to determine how that's going to happen.
Thank you. We're going to do one more question from the audience, and then we'll do our closing statements. So this question, starting with you, Mr. Finfer, is: Are you for collective bargaining? Why or why not? Repeat it. Sorry. Are you for collective bargaining? Why or why not?
A question like that is really asking if I'm in favor of certified and non-certified staff being represented by a bargaining unit. That's what I'm hearing. And the answer to the question is yes, I am. It's really important to me that benefits and that staff is compensated in a competitive manner to the surrounding districts.
Thank you.
Again, this is a question I don't know how to answer or what that exactly means, but if it is, I mean, I don't think we have, they are unionized, and so we have to do it. I don't know how else to answer it. I don't think that's an option. In Illinois, all our staff is unionized, so, most of us certified in ESPs are unionized, so that is part of the collective bargaining, and we will honor that commitment.
Thank you.
Again, I don't want to be redundant either. I suppose I am in favor of our teachers being unionized if that is what they so desire. I know other districts have decided not to be unionized anymore, and if that works for them, that's great. I'm happy one day to sit on a contract negotiation team if I should get the chance and participate in that process. I did not get to do that this time, but yeah, if it works to our teachers' benefit, then I'm all for it.
Thank you.
Yes, so if you mean collective bargaining by negotiating, yes, definitely. I'm definitely for that. I mean, we negotiate for everything in life, right? We negotiate for houses, we negotiate for cars. We get something and the other side gets something as well. Nobody wins, nobody loses, right? So that's how I feel about the situation, and I would be okay with the collective bargaining or negotiating in that respect.
Thank you.
Yes. My wife's an educator. She works in 70, just up the road. And I've seen firsthand what that level of representation has brought for her in her career. I don't know that I would have any sound mind to change it.
Thank you.
Do I really have to answer this question? Yes. Yeah, I mean, of course it is. And, if you look at the study of teachers' unions and the statistics out there across the country, the highest achieving states are the ones that have collective bargaining. The right to work states where they don't have collective bargaining tend to be at the bottom. They're the bottom 45 through 50 states or even more so. But, again, just overall, yes, teachers have the right to do that. The better working conditions teachers have, the better wages and benefits that they have, the better control that they have in terms of being recognized as professionals, translate into a better school district, and it translates into student achievement.
Thank you very much for answering all of those audience questions. Right now, we are going to give you each 2 minutes to make a final pitch to voters, starting with you, Mr. Vietas.
Well, again, I think, my experiences as in education, whether it was a teacher with the teachers union, will be of value to the district. It'll be an asset. Again, it's one voice, but it's a voice that I think needs to be heard. I think it's a voice that needs to be fought for. I have, again, worked with over 25 school districts, superintendents, school boards, staff, students, everything else. I have a proven track record of collaboration and working with these school districts. And in addition, just, I think the institutional knowledge I have from the union in terms of what we do with the state, in terms of what we push for, that unfortunately is sometimes seen as, adversarial with school districts, but, from pushing for funding for education, for pre-K programs, to, the No Child Goes Hungry Bill of Rights, to, fighting for parents, of special ed students, their rights for working with their children. All these things and all these things that I'm associated with, I think would be an asset to the school district and a perspective that I would bring.
Thank you.
Before I started this whole thing, I was not very good at talking about myself. And I'm still not very good at talking about myself. That hasn't changed. I love this place. We've called it home by choice for, 13, 14 years now. Wouldn't change a thing. I'm at a point in my life where I think I have some talents and some time to give back to the community, and I hope that if you think my mix of talents and my particular take on things is worth being here, I'm happy to serve. I've seen where serving the community in the past has made a great difference in both my life and the life of others, and I'd love an opportunity to continue doing that.
Thank you.
I think I'm the best person for the job. I come with a lot of IT experience. I think in my experience, over the course of 15, 16, 17 years, a lot of problems can be solved with technology. A lot of efficiencies can be done with technology. So I think the district as a whole needs to be more efficient. I have 2 kids that are going to be in the school district, so I highly doubt I will do anything to affect that. But I've pored over the budgets day and night sometimes, and I can see where we can make some cuts and some trimming that wouldn't affect the students at all. So, thank you.
Thank you.
So one of the things I failed to mention during my introductory statement is one of my other volunteer positions is I'm an advocate for Casa Lake County. That's a court-appointed special advocates. We represent the interests of foster care children that are going through the court system due to abuse or neglect. It is just my passion. Advocating for children is my absolute passion. It's what I want to do with my free time, despite sometimes it's frustrating to be a school board member and it's not always the rewarding experience you hope for. I do think I have something to give back. I think I've been a good voice for transparency, direct, open, honest communication with the community. I've asked the tough questions when needed. I've been the dissenting voice when needed. And I'm really just hoping to get a chance to work with our incoming superintendent. His strength is HR. I think he can give us a lot of direction and guidance on how to do things like improve teacher retention and the culture and climate there, as well as look at those achievement gaps. He's got, coming from a district with 28 buildings who are all performing almost all the same as each other. So lots of consistency, and I think his guidance is going to be really helpful. So I hope to get the opportunity to serve the community again. Thanks.
Thank you.
So, I hope you'll support me April 2nd. I hope in the past 4 years you've had a chance to see me work. I've been on the front line. We all have been, actually. The whole board has been up in the front, doing what we do best for the students, for the community, and I hope you had a chance to specifically see me work. I hope I've demonstrated my ability to be a good listener, a good communicator, a good presenter, to take up a cause and not slow down, not stop, see something to fruition. I've been a good team player. I get along with my board members. I think so. I'm going to say that. They all are here to support each other. We've been through a lot together, and we all have been together through all of it. We disagree with each other, but we always have each other's back, and I think that's a great testament to all of us working together. I have, for people who didn't see me work in the past 4 years, I can say I have good analytical skills. I'm highly organized. I don't give up. Ask my colleagues. And I'm highly efficient. And one of the things I've realized is, though I know a lot, there's a lot I don't know, and I won't hesitate to go to my experts and get help from them to learn about a subject if I have to make a decision based on anything that I don't know about. I will spend the time and the effort to learn about it and understand the topic. So I hope you will support me come April 2nd. Thank you.
Thank you.
Public education is a defining characteristic of a developed nation. I've had 30 years where I've been a passionate advocate for public education. And during that time, I've developed some resources and relationships that I think would be very beneficial to District 73, and I look forward to the opportunity to bring them.
Thank you very much. I'm going to pass the mic off to Mr. Langland.
Thank you. On behalf of HEA, I want to say thank you to all the board members, and we wish you well in the upcoming election. For all of us that work within the system, your role is really critical to what we do every day, working with our students. I did want to mention that Vicki Helender Heiser was not able to be with us this evening, one of our other candidates. We do have her information. This presentation will be posted online, should be by tomorrow, we hope. And so we encourage all of you that were here tonight to share your thoughts and impressions with your neighbors and encourage them to get out and vote. So thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Just to clarify, the 6 of us are running for 4 seats, 4-year term, of a 4-year term each. Vicki Helander Heiser is an uncontested candidate for a 2-year unexpired term. So, just in case you were wondering, it's not 7 people for 4 seats, it's 6 people for 4. Thanks for coming.